Shri Gurubhyo Namah Harihi Om Dhyayamo Dhavalavagunthanavati Tejo Mayim Naishthiki Snigdha Pangavilokini Bhagavati Mandasmita Shri Mukhi Vatsalyamritavarshini Sumadhuram Sankirtanalapini Shyamangi Madhusikta Suktim Amritanandatmikam Ishwari Om Amriteshwari Namah Om Amriteshwari Namah Om Amriteshwari Namah. My humble prostrations at the lotus feet of our most beloved Amma, at the lotus feet of entire Guru Parampara, the lineage of spiritual teachers. Let us begin with a short meditation. Kindly close your eyes. Keep your back straight. Be very, very relaxed. Let go of all your anxieties. Let go of all your unnecessary thoughts. Be here in this very present moment. Fully aware of your body, fully aware of the state of your mind. Feel your body settling down. Feel your mind settling down. We will now do Pranava Mantra 3 times, where you need to take a deep breath and then chant the syllable Om. And as you chant this syllable, feel the reverberations of this divine syllable in each and every cell of your body. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath again. Take a deep breath again. Feel the reverberations of this divine syllable Om in each and every cell of your body. Feel the subtle presence of Amma, our most beloved Guru, within and around you. Gently bring your focus to your breath. Be aware as you breathe in, be aware as you breathe out. Feel the air in your nostrils, in your throat, in your lungs as you breathe in and breathe out. Now, as you breathe in, mentally intone the sound Ma. And as you breathe out, mentally intone the sound Om. Make sure you are doing this only mentally. You do not have to verbalize it. There is absolutely no sound externally. Just mentally infusing the inhalation and exhalation with Ma and Om. As Amma always says, Ma denotes divine love. Om denotes divine light. So, with that feeling that you are inhaling the divine love and you are exhaling the divine light, continue this process of inhalation and exhalation with full awareness and also intoning Ma as you breathe in and Om as you breathe out for a few minutes. This not only gives you control over your mind, this not only improves your mental health, but it also helps you to improve the needed qualities of focus, concentration, and also helps in your spiritual growth. So let this cycle of Ma and Om continue as you breathe in and breathe out. Remember, you do not have to verbalize it, just mentally intone the sounds. Ma as you breathe in, Om as you breathe out. Let the sounds of Ma and Om slowly subside, leaving only the vibrations of those sounds. Feel those subtle vibrations as you breathe in and breathe out. Feel your heart filled with divine love. Love for entire creation. As Amma says, the real love is the love which is not selfish. The real love is selfless love. And selfless love has no limits. Feel that divine love flowing from your heart to the entire creation. Feel this love encompassing this entire creation, the mountain, the rivers, the animals, the birds, everything in this creation. Feel your oneness, feel your unity with this entire creation. As we end this meditation, before you open your eyes, give certain positive affirmations to yourself. I am in control of my life. Happiness is a decision. As Amma always says, happiness must be our decision. We should not allow any situation, any circumstance to pull the triggers of our happiness. We should be the only deciding factor of our internal state, of our own happiness. Because only if we are internally calm, happy, peaceful, we can radiate that happiness, that peaceful, that peace, that love to everybody around us. Now, with a gentle smile, slowly open your eyes and let's get started with the session.
Thank you so much, Swamiji, for the beautiful meditation. Welcome, everyone, to today's AYUDH Reflect session. In spirit of the Thankfulness Month, thank you so much. And in spirit of Native American Heritage Month as well, thank you to them. Um, so thank you so much, Mokshamrita ji, for joining us today. For those of you who don't know him, I'll give you a brief intro. Brahmachari Mokshamrita ji is a monastic disciple of Amma. He has an engineering background in computer science. In the past, he has worked with top multinational corporations across India, the US, and Canada. He has also served as a faculty member at Amrita University, where he used to teach computer science subjects. As a researcher at Amrita University, he has authored research papers related to wireless communication and digital securities. More than 20 years ago, he left his lucrative career in North America and decided to serve Amma's mission, decided to be a part of Amma's mission to serve humanity. He has guided and mentored countless youth in alignment with Amma's vision, empowering them with clarity, confidence, and a deep sense of purpose. Passionate about inspiring youth, his insightful and inspiring talks beautifully weave together the timeless wisdom of Indian scriptures along with a scientific, practical approach that resonates with the modern mind. He is the national coordinator for AYUDH India, which is an international youth movement inspired by Amma's vision. A certified yoga and meditation instructor, Brahmachari Mokshamrita ji, has been invited by many organizations worldwide as a life coach to conduct mental health yoga and meditation workshops. Thank you so much for joining us today, Swamiji. We can't wait for your session on the topic of moving forward without regrets.
Once again, my namaskaram and pranams to everybody. Ritu, would you like to just give an intro of the topic
Yes,
before I start?
yes, Swamiji. So sorry. Um, okay. Whether we like to or not, we are forced to make countless decisions every day. It might be something as mundane as choosing what to eat for breakfast, or something life-altering as picking a major or career. How can we live in the present without regretting our past decisions? What causes us to feel guilty, and how can we get out of it? Join us today. Um, yeah, that's it. Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to regret about what you said. So, the topic is about moving forward without regrets. If you look at the dictionary meaning of regret, what does it mean? We all use this word very commonly. The dictionary meaning is to feel sorry about something you have done in the past. Or it could also be about something that you have not been able to do in the past. And in the field of psychology, researchers have been trying to study the nature of regrets, the reasons that lead to regrets for several years. If you look at this whole chain of regret, the whole chain of events, first comes the decision making in past, where you made a certain choice or you did not make a certain choice, the decision making. Then comes the outcome of that decision. And when it is followed by comparing the outcome of that decision which you made with other possible outcomes of the choices which you did not make, that is where the regret part comes in. So, first it is about decision making, then it is about outcome of the decision, and then the comparing of that outcome with other possible outcomes. And it is in that space where the regret part comes in. If you go by research, the way researchers in psychology talk about regret, they say regret is a negative emotion predicated on an upward, self-focused, counterfactual inference. It might sound a little convoluted, but that is how it is defined. A negative emotion predicated on an upward, self-focused, counterfactual inference. Counterfactual because it is related to something that has not happened actually, because you are comparing with other possible outcomes which could have happened. So it's counterfactual. To put it simply, when we say it would have been better if I had done this or if I had not done this, that is what is called a negative emotion predicated on an upward, self-focused, counterfactual inference. Now, please remember, it is not that regret is always, or let me put it this way, it is not that comparing the current outcome with other possible outcomes is always a negative thing. We need that kind of analysis in life to grow, to progress. There's nothing wrong in that. But the problem is the regret part, because regret is a negative emotion. It does not help you to move forward. And regret feels bad because it implies a fault in the personal action. You are telling yourself, I should have done it differently. So there is a component of self-blame. Self-blame is a very, very essential part of this regret cycle. That is why it is a negative emotion. If we are just comparing the outcome of our decision with other possible outcomes and using it to improve our future, then it's not a negative emotion. But when we start to self-blame and when we get in that vicious cycle, that rat hole, that is where it becomes a negative emotion. And that is the topic of the discussion today. So when we get into that negative emotion, it creates a state of mental discomfort. It creates a conflict in our inner self. That technical word which researchers in psychology use for this is called cognitive dissonance. That mental discomfort, that internal conflict. It's a cognitive dissonance. And there have been various studies called regret ranking studies, where they study what causes regret. What is it that people usually regret? And I think in 2023, if I'm not wrong, there was a study done where they did a meta-analysis of such regret ranking studies. I think 11 of them were taken aboard, and they did a meta-analysis of those 11 regret ranking studies. And what they found was that the biggest regrets come from the times in life where we had the biggest opportunities and we felt a chance for change and renewal. And the top 6 in that bracket, they were related to education, they were related to career, they were related to romance, they were related to, I think fourth one was parenting, they were related to self, and they were also related to leisure. So education, career, romance, parenting, self, and leisure in the descending order. And of course, this study was primarily done on people who were living in America. And education was on the top. So it appeared that number one regret of most Americans is studies, about studies. For example, they should have stayed in the school for longer time. They should have studied harder. They should have gotten another degree. So that was one of the biggest regrets they had. But of course, I'm sure if this research was done in other parts of the world, the results would have been probably different. Nevertheless, what researchers also found was that it is the opportunity part which breeds regret. So wherever in past opportunities existed and we missed those opportunities, that is where regrets come from. And most people do regret from time to time, which is normal in one way. We all make mistakes, we do silly things. And then let me call it positive regret. It allows us the opportunity to learn from our mistakes, to make positive reaffirmations and ensure that we don't keep on making those mistakes. It is very normal because we all want to be a better version of ourselves. There's nothing wrong in it. But the problem comes when we get into this negative spiral of regret. And we keep on brooding over what has gone wrong. And that is where it starts becoming very detrimental to our mental and emotional health. And more often than not, this negatively impacts our physical health also. I remember many years back, there was a boy who once came to Amma during darshan, and he was completely devastated actually. His mother was also with him, and his mother told Amma that he has not been eating for many, many months properly. He has lost his job, and his mother was not able to understand what went wrong. But he opened up to Amma, and he told Amma that it was because of a breakup in his relation with his previous girlfriend, because of which he had stopped eating properly. He did not go to his work regularly and lost his job. And the most uh, hurtful thing for him was that he regretted picking up a fight with his girlfriend over a very, very uh, mundane matter. I'm not going to reveal those details, but it was very, very, we can say, very, very silly thing to have fought over it. But the thing is that it was not the fault of the boy also. But he kept on regretting, why did I should have stopped fighting, and maybe then she would have stayed with me. And he opened up to Amma. Then Amma finally told him, see, my son, suppose you had not picked up the fight. Suppose she would have stayed with you. Suppose you would have married in future. But the same situation could have come up. And if this breakup had happened at a later time after your marriage, leading to a divorce, it would have been even worse. So there is no point regretting about what happened, because sometimes things happen for good. Nevertheless, let's come back to the topic. Now, a question which is very pertinent to this topic is, why should we have this problem of regrets? Can this happen to all of us? Yes, it can. And why does it happen? Because there are various reasons. One of the reasons could be that it is part of our personality, or it has become rather a part of our personality. Some of us seem to be born with brains that just think more, worry more, analyze more. Nobody's fault. They are genetically like that. Sometimes it could be that amygdala is the part of brain, I think most of you know. It's the fear center of your brain, which kicks in fear. And there's a reason it is there. It is not an unnecessary part of our brain. But at the same time, an amygdala, which is gone bonkers, out of control, that is the problem. So it is when amygdala is gone out of control that it exaggerates potential dangers. It exaggerates catastrophic consequences. It creates more feeling of guilt. Now, this is purely biological. This is purely biological. You can think of it as your brain's survival mechanism, but turned up too loud. That is the only problem. The good thing is that it is not an irreversible problem. You can change the wiring of your brain. That is what we call neuroplasticity. And to do that, we need to train our brains. We need to develop our prefrontal cortex by practices such as yoga and meditation, so that this fear center of your brain, this amygdala, comes under control. Now, many people, because of this fear, they never get started in life. They never take decisions. As was told in my introduction also, because I'm from a computer science background, I always try to relate uh, human problems with the problems in computer science. So in computer science, there's a problem called halting problem. The algorithm that never starts. It's called halting problem. Because sometimes programmers get so stuck in making 100% perfect software that they never start to code. They're stuck in that design forever. And what happens if you are stuck like that? The program never runs. So the only solution is run the program and debug it along the way. The bugs will come. The program may fail from time to time. Debug it along the way. And that is exactly how life works. Second problem which can lead to regret, or the reason rather, is sometimes due to cognitive distortions. Those of you maybe who are into psychology, they must have come across this term, cognitive distortion. This is when our brain distorts the reality. It over exaggerates it. There's a various types of cognitive distortions which we study in psychology. One of them is called doom and gloom thinking. When your brain makes you think that that's it, that's the end of the world, and now nothing is going to be positive in your life. The doom and gloom thinking. So cognitive distortions also create regret. And some of us are, as I said, they're wired like that. The rumination part, the negative, constant, endless negative thinking becomes a part of our character. We become too self-critical, telling yourself every now and then that you are no good. It is your fault. So this tendency to regret everything and always blame yourself becomes stronger and stronger. And sometimes it may also come from the environments and people that formed your childhood. It can come from your parents. It can come from your siblings. It can come from your caregiver. It can also happen if we had a troubled childhood, a childhood where possibly we were neglected or went through some trauma. And then, our brain kind of simply decided that somehow it is always our fault. Sometimes it also happens that, we get into this tendency of regretting because it gives us something to talk about. This is very deeply psychological issues which need to be dealt with. Some people always need that, they get addicted to that drama in our life because it gives us a sense of importance. That can also lead to regret. We want to regret because it gives us something to talk about. Another reason which could lead to regret is when we are too much of a perfectionist. Many people think that perfectionist is some kind of a virtue. Actually, it is not. Trying to become perfect is good, but a perfectionist attitude where you start blaming yourself for every small mistake, that becomes a problem. You are constantly in a game of living up to unreachable standards. and always feeling terrible of not meeting that mark. That is a perfectionist syndrome, which is very dangerous. That can also lead to regrets. Another important reason is constant comparison with other people. Oh, see, that person took that particular decision and is successful. If I had taken that decision, I could also have been successful. Constant comparison, that also can create regret. So there are multiple reasons which can create regret. It is important to understand the reasons, because if we want to talk about solution, we should know what causes regret.
Swamiji, it's been
Yes,
15 minutes. Sorry.
very difficult for me. I'll try. So now, how do we stop regretting? How do we stop regretting? Now, first thing to stop regretting is to understand that it is a mental disease. And we need some sort of a therapy to come out of that disease. In psychology, there is something called CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Behavioral because it refers to action. Cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive because it refers to thinking. Behavioral because it refers to acting or action. So this CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy, it is dealing with the way we think, the way we act, because the way we think and the way we act affects the way we feel. So this negative thinking loop of regret, if we have to come out of it, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is one of the best ways. I won't go into the details of it, but I'll try to give you an overview. How do we break that unending downward spiral? By recognizing our own negative thoughts and questioning them. And questioning them. And by treating our mind as our friend, by having self-compassion, because before we become compassionate towards others, we need to have self-compassion. And that's a very important component of cognitive behavioral therapy. See, I can give you another example from computer science, very modern example. We are all talking about AI, artificial intelligence. One of the most important technologies or science behind artificial intelligence is machine learning. Again, not going into the details, but just to give you an overview. How do AI models learn? These machine learning models, how do they learn? They don't learn by being right from the very first instance. They learn by being wrong thousands of times. Every wrong prediction becomes a learning signal. And then the neural network, it adjusts the weights of the neural network. That is how it evolves. It doesn't start right from the very beginning. If any artificial intelligence model never made a mistake, it can never learn. Your brain works the same way. Life works the same way. So mistakes are not proof of stupidity. They are proof that the algorithm is running. So similarly, the CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy, it allows us to learn from our mistakes, to not be too self-judgmental. And CBT has been proven to work in many, many cases. It has helped in anger management, anxiety disorders, depression. In fact, if you ask me, most of Bhagavad Gita, the words of wisdom which Krishna spoke to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, I would say that it was the original Indian version of cognitive behavioral therapy. Original version. So, to move forward and overcome our regrets, we need to befriend our mind. And we can only befriend our mind when we understand our own mind. In Bhagavad Gita, there is a beautiful quote, a shloka, which says, Uddharet atmana atmanam na atmanam avasadayet. Atmaiv hi atmano bandhu, atmaiv ripuratmana. Meaning that elevate yourself through the power of your mind by befriending your mind. Do not degrade yourself by making your mind your enemy, because the mind can be a friend and also an enemy. Mind can do both. So when we get into this negative regret cycle, know that your mind is against you. You have made your mind your own enemy. So very important to befriend your mind if you want to live a well-balanced life. How do you befriend your mind? Just like you tame your pet dog, you need to tame your mind. You need to train your mind. If you don't tame your dog, it will bite you. But if you tame it, if you train it, it obeys you, it listens to you like a good friend. So the medicine of the regret is to befriend your mind. And once you befriend your mind, you no more get into this negative cycle. You don't rewrite the meaning. You don't get into self-blame. You don't try to rewrite your past. You rewrite the meaning. During the icebreaker which we just had, we didn't record it, but most of you who were there. So the question which was asked to me was, would you want to change your past or change your future? That is exactly what I said. Neither I would want to change my past nor the future, because my past allowed me to be the version I am today. Why would I change my past? I might have made some mistakes, but those were necessary for me. And why would I want to change the future if I am aware about what I'm going to do in present? That is all what matters. So rewrite the meaning of your past, not the past. You don't have to rewrite your past. Nobody can rewrite the past. So when you get into this regret cycle, your mind is punishing you for not predicting the unpredictable, actually. And then you are trying to rewrite your past. You don't need to change the past. You only need to change the story you tell yourself about the past. For example, instead of saying, I ruined everything I messed up, you can also say, well, I acted with intelligence that I had at that point of time, and I learned something I could not have learned otherwise. It looks like I made a mistake now, but at that point of time, I made my best decision, and I grew because I took that decision. That is the maturity. That is the wisdom. There's no point blaming a 16-year-old version of yourself for thinking something that you would not have been able to think at that point of time. Or rather, for not thinking something that you would not have been able to think at that point of time. There's no point blaming your 16-year-old version for that. Today, when you're 26-year-old or 30-year-old, you are able to think in retrospect. But at that point of time, that is the best you could do. So remember that every version of you was trying to survive with the tools you had at that point of time. And same thing happens in software development. Many of us today are looking at, let's say, for example, Windows 11 or Windows 12. Well, Windows was not always like that. There was Windows 95, Windows 1, and earlier versions of Windows 7. And they all had bugs. That is how software development is. That is how Android was. That is how iOS was. No software in the world became perfect, including your Google Chrome browser. There were bugs. But engineers never waited for perfection. They released something to the world which was functional, and then they kept on improving through debugging, patching, feature updates, user feedback. This is exactly how life decisions work. You choose something, you refine, you adjust, you learn, you update. The first decision you took 20 years back, let us say, or 10 years back, that was your version 1. Now you are more mature, more wise. So you upgrade to version 2 or 3. You don't need to live a perfect life from the very first day. You just need a life that you can update. So what is very important is a debugging mindset, not a blaming mindset. I say debugging mindset because I love relating things to the computer science background. Software engineering, debugging is very important. You don't have to blame your mind. A programmer never says that I'm useless because there was a bug in my program. No. A good programmer says, wow, interesting. Let me debug it now. Huh? Let me debug this program. So your life is the same way. Whether it is a breakup or a career mistake. Let's say there was a breakup, relation breakup. So you need to debug your emotional patterns, cognitive behavioral therapy. Let us say you made a mistake in the career. Debug your values and skills. See where is the flaw. See where is the gap. You made a wrong decision in investment. Debug your decision-making process. So this debugging has to be compassionate, not violent. When you blame, when you self-blame, you are very, very violent actually. You're violent to yourself. Debugging is compassionate. It allows you to grow. It allows you to make a better version of yourself. So just like in software, you have feature updates. So you learn new skills. Those are feature updates. Patches are there. Bug reports are there. So every experience is like a software patch. Every mistake you make is like a bug report, and you debug yourself. And one more thing I would say before we break out for the Q&A. See, one more important thing is deep within, regret is rooted in desire for control. If you remember during meditation also, I told you, make a positive reaffirmation that you are in control of your life. But many people misunderstand this control. When we say control, it is not the control of the result of your actions. Rather, it is the control of your inner state. You can never control the life fully because there are so many external factors which govern your life. So when we say taking control of our life, taking charge of our life, it means taking control of our inner state. There's a beautiful Zen saying, you cannot control the river, but you can learn how to swim. That is exactly how life is. You cannot control everything in life, but you can learn how to navigate through life. See, most of us have this mobile phone, which we call smartphone. There are a lot of processes going on in your mobile phone. Your mobile phone, without your knowledge, it is trying to optimize your battery. It is trying to optimize your memory. It is trying to optimize your brightness. It is trying to optimize your notifications. So it controls all that. But it never tries to control the mobile network signal. Because there is no point in controlling something that is completely beyond your reach. It never tries to control how fast the server responds. For example, I'm connecting to a YouTube server, let us say somewhere in US. Well, the way the server is going to respond and the latency in the server is completely out of control of this mobile. So similarly in life, think of yourself like a mobile phone. There are certain things within you which you can control, but there are certain things outside which you cannot control. But when we have this control freak nature, what we call control, there are people who are control freaks. They want to control everything. They want to control other people. They want to control the outcome. That is where life becomes miserable. So this trying to control each and everything, this is what we need to get out of. And that is why, exactly why Krishna tells Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, karmanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Many times, because people don't understand this. Why is Krishna saying you have the right to perform your prescribed duties, but don't worry about the fruits of your action? Why? Because Krishna is saying, don't try to be a control freak. Don't try to be a control freak. All that you can do is control your action, not the results. And then Krishna says, Ma karma phal heturbhu mate sangostva karmani. Very beautiful. Don't think that you are the cause of the results, because there are multiple other factors which are affecting your result. And at the same time, Krishna says, Mate sangostva akarmani. Now, having known all this, Arjuna, don't try to be attached to inaction also. Meaning, don't get into that halting problem, which I told you earlier. So the control freak mind, when it feels that I'm not in control, it gets into inaction, halting problem. Okay, then I'm not going to do, because I don't know what is going to happen. Fear factor. And then we end up making decisions. That is the problem. This is the disease of the control. This is the disease of the control. So to move forward, remember, the only problem is indecision. Making a wrong decision is not a problem. Just like your Google Maps. It shows you one route, and if there is a traffic, it shows you another route. That is the way life should be. You take one decision, doesn't work out, take another decision. No point self-blaming and getting into that negative cycle of regret and getting into that rat hole. Because if you keep reopening old chapters, you will not be able to write the new ones. Movement is more important than perfection. This is why living in present, sthita prajna, what Krishna calls as sthita prajna, then only your mind quietens, your clarity improves, your fear drops. So it is very, very important we understand how our mind works without brooding over the past. That is why Amma says past is a cancelled check. Learn from your past, but never invest in your past so much that you lose your present. Right? So I think I'll end there, and hopefully we'll have some interesting Q&A.
So we had 2.5 questions. I'll go in order. So the first one was, you spoke a lot about, befriending the mind. Did you have any tips or practical practices that we can adopt in our day-to-day lives to do that? The second question was, have you faced regret? And if so, how have you personally managed it? And then the last was in general, any Amma related examples or stories related to this topic that you wanted to share.
Let's go one by one.
Let's
go one by one. What was the first one?
The first one was in terms of befriending the mind, if you had any tips or any practical practices that we can adopt in our day-to-day lives to work on that.
So I think the most practical tip about befriending the mind is what comes from Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna tells Arjuna in I think, 6th verse of 6th chapter. Bandhuratmanatmanastasya yenatmaiva atmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. Meaning, for those who have conquered their mind, the mind becomes the best friend. For those who have failed to conquer their mind, the mind works like an enemy. So I think in that one verse, Krishna has given us the key that if you want to befriend your mind, conquer your mind. But we must understand this conquer does not mean a violent something that involves violence. Because usually when we hear the word conquer, we think we have to go and conquer, fight with somebody. No, it's a very, very compassionate understanding of your own mind. But at the same time, that compassion involves discipline also. It's like I am reminded of one incident where somebody asked a mama, how does love manifest in relationships? And Amma said very beautifully that love manifests as care and at the same time discipline. So love has two faces. One is soft, like a cotton. And one is very sharp, like a knife. But both are very important facets of love. So similarly, when it comes to conquering the mind, just like you cajole a small child, sometimes you are very soft on it. Sometimes you have to take hard decisions. Hard disciplining of the mind is also important. Another example I gave earlier in my talk was about the dog, taming the dog. You don't keep beating the dog all the time, your pet dog, but initially you need to discipline it. Otherwise, it will be pooping all around your home. So you need to discipline it. When it is a poop time, you better go out, right? Or when I take you out, you poop outside. Otherwise, you will be cleaning the mess all around in your house whole day. So it's just like that. You need to train your mind. And that comes with discipline. That comes with certain practices. For example, meditation, yoga, you're basically taming your mind, right? Even, for example, doing archana, you're taming your mind in one way. So that is the best way to befriend your mind. Okay. What was the second question?
Second question was, have you faced regret? And if so, how have you managed it?
Have I faced regret? Yes. I think one of my major regrets in life at one point of time, not now. One of my major regrets in life at one point of time was when I think I had cleared my 12th exams, 12th standard exams. And I always had this passion for becoming a fighter pilot in Indian Air Force. And from my childhood, I used to dream that I will be flying planes and I will be, bombarding the enemies, and I will not let anybody harm India. Very, very patriotic, because that is how the family I grew in were very patriotic. So I wrote my NDA exams, National Defense Academy exams, as they call it. And I cleared the written exams, and they called me for what they call as SSB selection or something, where they do a lot of physical tests and all that, and then personality testing and all that. And finally, after clearing everything, they disqualified me because of my flat foot. One of my foot was flat, and they disqualified me for that. And for a long time, I regretted it because my flat foot actually happened because of a fracture in my leg in my earlier childhood. And that fracture happened because uh, on one day when I used to go to play in a ground there. In that ground, there used to be a huge tree. And one boy, he was falling down the tree, and I tried to save him. And while in an attempt to save him, I fell down from the tree from I think it was at least, it would have been, I think, 30 feet. From 30 feet, I fell down. And luckily, I didn't break my head. I fell on my leg and I broke my leg. And because of that, I had a flat foot. And because of that, I got disqualified. So for a long time, it remained like a regret in me. I kept on thinking to myself, why did I do this? Why did I try to get into something which was none of my job? I would have just, if I had not gotten on the tree trying to save that kid, I could have possibly been selected in NDA and become a fighter pilot. And for 2 3 years I went through that guilt trip, unless and until one fine day when I remember, during, because then I took up engineering, of course. During one of my holidays, when I went home uh, during one of the vacation period, I remember this boy's mother came to me, um, and she was in tears, and she started profusely thanking me and my parents. And she said, if you had not saved my son that day, probably he would have been dead. And at that point of time, it was like a jolt to me. I kept thinking, I have been regretting, and I've been thinking that I made the worst decision of my life by getting on that tree and trying to save somebody, and I'm breaking my leg and all that. But look at this other angle also. It has saved somebody's life. What best can you do if you are able, more than saving somebody's life? So then I started thinking from that angle, that if by breaking my leg I have been able to save a life, it's not that bad. And I'm doing good in engineering now. I can become a good computer science engineer also. So at that point of time, my regret started fading away slowly. It took a little time, but then it faded away completely. So sometimes, in life, we take certain decisions which look wrong, but turn out to be brilliant. For example, even Steve Jobs being fired from Apple, very humiliating, painful, I'm sure it would have been. But later, it was Apple's greatest renaissance, the Pixar success. Or take another example of J.K. Rowling, who rather wrote the Harry Potter novel. It seemed a very irresponsible action because she was in poverty, dire poverty at that point of time, but later became a global icon, a billionaire author. So sometimes things which look wrong go right. And sometimes things which look right go wrong. Blockbuster, they refused to buy Netflix at one point of time. Outcome was a disaster because they thought that DVD rental was the right future, but it didn't work out. Kodak, they invented the digital camera, but they chose the film because it felt safer at that point of time. But later, what happened? Bankruptcy, right? So sometimes decisions we take at one point of time, they turn out to be right later, may not be at that moment of time. We may think we made a bad decision, but later it turns out to be right, and vice versa. So not all that glitters is gold. In cybersecurity, we have this saying, there is no perfectly secure system, only systems that are secure enough. Similarly, there is no perfect decision, only decisions that are sincere enough. What we need is to be committed to our decisions. They might turn out to be okay, they might not turn out to be okay. But in the larger picture, if we see, many a times our actions have certain side effects which we usually don't see. But if we look at that bigger picture, we see that whatever happened for good. So that was one regret I can think of.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. Thank you, Shrikati Jeji. Great questions from group 1. So just as a quick note, it is 10:30 p.m. In the East Coast right now. So I think because it's getting a bit late, Swamiji, sorry to put you on the spot, but if possible, we'd love to have another session with you, just question and answer, in case some people don't get to ask all their questions. So just want to keep the short timeline in mind, just because AYUDH Boston is based in East Coast. So our next group is group 2. So that is Nandini Melody Chechi, Stephanie Chechi, and Saumi, etc. If someone wants to talk. Thank you.
Namaskar, Swamiji. We forgot to nominate a person to ask a question on our behalf, so we just thought it would be better if someone could ask an individual question. So Siddhant had a pretty important question which he would like to present to you.
Okay.
And right before we jump into that, is it possible that we have one question in the group so that group 3 also has a chance to ask a question? Is that okay with you guys?
And
Yeah,
of
I
course,
think we only had one question.
Perfect.
Of
Thank
course, Ritu and Arun, if you want, I can come later also at a certain point of time for Q&A. But yeah, I'll also try to keep. It's very hard for me, but I'll try to keep it very short, because sometimes I feel if we don't address the question fully, we are not doing justice to the questioner. Anyway, go ahead, please.
Okay, sounds good. Sadanand, if you could.
Namaskar, Swamiji.
Can I see the person next to me?
So sorry, could you turn on your video?
Yeah, sure. Just a minute. And Namaskar, Swamiji. Actually,
I see Soumitra. Oh, okay, now I can see Siddhant. Yes.
yeah, Swamiji, I had this question that suppose I worked hard on something and I was not able to like succeed in that thing. But going into some new endeavor, I don't feel that confident enough to pursue that new thing. It feels like I try to procrastinate. I don't like, I mean, I can't gather that courage to do that thing. So, how to get that courage from how should I like start this new thing, whichever I want to do? So, any new challenge, how should I take up? So, that's the thing which I face personally.
Okay. So, Siddhant, I am reminded, as you were saying this question, I am reminded of one quote from Amma. Amma says, you should never keep standing on the shore thinking that I will dive into the ocean when all the waves will subside. Just dive into the ocean. That is the only way. So, sometimes, as I told initially also, our overthinking mind can create this fear and anxiety in us for future. That what if this doesn't go wrong? Or sorry, what if this doesn't go right? What if I fail? So these are all your amygdala gone bonkers. Basically, your brain is working against you. So you need to understand that it is not a problem. It is something that can be solved. It's not a perennial problem. And physically, if you ask me, the first step would be to start taking some time and just be by yourself. Some sort of meditation can help you gain control and develop your prefrontal cortex so that your over active amygdala can be in control. Second thing is to understand by wisdom that, in our life, there are outcomes that are shaped by countless factors. Because universe is not just you, right? If we look at the most certain events of our life, which are only two, birth and death, they are 100% events that they will happen. It's not that somebody will not die. Everybody is going to die. And both of these events are not in our control. But in between this birth and death, we want everything to be in our control. And that is the problem of control we have. So try to be comfortable with unknown. Try to be comfortable in a space where you don't know what is happening or what is going to happen. Because anyway, you cannot control it. But you can control the way you react to it, the way you respond to those things. So inner control, understanding that difference between outer control and inner control is the first step you take to get out of that fear. Understanding what I can control and what I cannot control. Once you understand that, then there is no problem. You just move ahead. If the decision goes wrong, or you feel after some point of time that it didn't go wrong, you reroute yourself, just like your Google map reroutes you. You took a wrong turn, wrong exit. No problem. I'll reroute you. My goal is to take you to the destination. I will reroute you. But don't get into this control panic. Work more on your effort, work more on your discipline, work more on your attitude. Do not get worried about outcome. Do not get worried about other people. Do not get worried about such things. That is what Krishna said, karmanyavadikaraste, I just explained. So internal control of effort, discipline, attitude, that is what you need to work on. That is what you need to work on. And if you need more tips on that, you can come and we can meet me in the ashram and we can discuss more about it.
Definitely, definitely.
But you have already improved a lot. I know that.
Yeah. It was all your blessing,
you are no
Swamiji.
more Siddhant version 1.0. You are, I think, 4.0 right now.
It's all your blessings, Swamiji, and Amma's blessings.
Yeah, but more than that, your blessings. More than that, your blessings to yourself. Yes. Amma says,
Yes.
more than Guru Kripa, you need Atma Kripa. Guru Kripa will only work if Atma Kripa is there. So your own blessings should be with you.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Nice. Thank you, Siddhant.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you. And now for group 3, which is Anurag, Amritanand, Kali Devi, Gayatri. If one of you wants to ask the question for your group.
I can ask the question.
Yay! Okay. Sounds good.
We were wondering.
See.
Okay. Namaskar, Swamiji. We were wondering if
Namaskar.
so when we begin to experience regret, is there something we can do in that moment to help ground us or perhaps clear our mind so we don't spiral downwards? Because sometimes our regret can be so intense that it's difficult to apply like rational or spiritual thought in that moment, especially when we have such a self-blame attitude. So what's something we could implement in that moment to alleviate that feeling and to be more aware of and prevent those feelings from arising in the future?
So if I understand your question correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you are saying that sometimes in certain situations, you're not able to apply your rational mind and you get into this unending spiral. What can be done in those moments, right?
Yeah.
Okay. See, in human psychology, there are two things which usually psychologists address. One is the intellectual part. Another important factor is emotional part. We usually talk about IQ. We say intelligence quotient, right? And we measure intelligence quotient by certain measures, by certain tests. But then there is something called emotional quotient also. And many psychologists nowadays believe that it is not just the IQ which is important or the intelligence quotient which is important. EQ is also important, which means emotions are a part of our life and they're very important. just like intelligence. But the problem comes when our emotions hijack our intelligence. Our emotions sometimes hijack our intelligence, and that is what you get into a situation which you are describing, when your rational mind doesn't work anymore. Your emotions hijack your intelligence. Intellectually you know that something should be done this way, but then you find yourself powerless at that time. So one of the best ways at that point of time is to work with your emotions rather than against them. As they say, iron cuts iron. If you have to cut the iron bars, suppose somebody is in the jail, iron bars. The only way you can cut the iron bars is with the iron, what do you call that thing? Iron axe, right? Or something like that. That is also iron. But then it cuts that bar, right? So similarly, sometimes positive emotions can help you overcome negative emotions more than your intelligence, because at that time your brain is in such a state that intelligence is gone for a 6. But your emotions, the positive emotions, can help you, right? And positive emotions, building those positive emotions is what EQ is all about. So again, if I come to Bhagavad Gita, people don't understand this in this way usually, but actually that is what it is. When Krishna talks about devotion, when Krishna talks about bhakti yoga, he's talking about basically the EQ part. When Bhagwan talks about Jnana Yoga, he's talking about the IQ part. So building that positive emotional, you can say, ammunitions with you to fight the negative emotions is what Bhakti Yoga is all about. So the way you can do that is, first, by having a certain person as the idol in your life, or rather the ideal in your life, a role model. Like for most of us, let us say Amma is the role model, right? And then deriving certain lessons from the way she acted in certain situations, right? By having faith in our guru, for example, or by having faith in the higher intelligence of this universe. Amma often gives this example. There were once 2 small children. They were near the swimming pool. One of them was swimming and one of them was crying, sitting on the side. So when somebody asked the baby who was sitting on the pool and crying, "Why are you crying?" The baby said, "Well, I'm afraid that I might sink." When they asked the another baby, the sibling, "How come you are swimming? Are you not afraid like your brother?" He said, "No, I'm not afraid because my mom is standing right there. And I know she will save me if I'm going to drown." Right? So sometimes having that sort of faith in the guru or God or in the universe can also sometimes help us to get out of that negative emotional vicious cycle. Now, of course, there is no intellectual basis to you thinking like that. Somebody might just say, "Oh, it's just just something emotional." You're thinking that your guru will save you. You're thinking that God will save you. It is just some emotional. Yes, it is emotional, but this is a positive emotion. It may not be intellectual, but it is a positive emotion. And let me tell you that emotions can really influence sometimes your whole life. If you learn how to master your emotions, people who say that emotions are bad, or we should not be emotional, they're absolutely wrong. What is needed is to be able to master your emotions, and emotions can become your greatest asset. So in such situations where intelligence is not helping you, use your positive emotions such as devotion to your ideal, devotion to God, devotion to this universe, devotion to your higher self as an antidote to fight against your negative emotions. Okay, I hope that helps.
Thank you, Swamiji.
I think now we are ready for some nice music.
Yes.
Some nice devotional music.
तेरी कृपा से बेड़ा पार हो, मेरी माँ तेरी जय जयकार हो। तेरी कृपा से बेड़ा पार हो, मेरी माँ तेरी जय जयकार हो। दीन दुखी पापी और रोगी सबका ही उद्धार हो, मेरी माँ तेरी जय जयकार हो। तेरी कृपा से बेड़ा पार हो, मेरी माँ तेरी जय जयकार हो। सांस सांस मैं तुझको पूजूं, आत्याम लूं तेरा नाम। सांस सांस मैं तुझको पूजूं, आत्याम लूं तेरा नाम। जब जीवन की संध्या आए, कृपा करो मुझ पर अविराम। कृपा करो मुझ पर अविराम। कृपा से बेड़ा पार हो, मेरी माँ तेरी जय जयकार हो। ओ भक्तिमय पल पल मेरा, ओ भक्तिमय जीवन श्याम। ओ भक्तिमय पल पल मेरा, ओ भक्तिमय जीवन श्याम। जाऊँ कहाँ तज चरण तुम्हारी, पाऊँ उन्हीं में चारों धाम। पाऊँ उन्हीं में चारों धाम। तेरी कृपा से बेड़ा पार हो, मेरी माँ तेरी जय जयकार हो। तेरी कृपा से बेड़ा पार हो, मेरी माँ तेरी जय जयकार हो। जय जयकार मैया तेरी जय जयकार। जय जयकार मैया तेरी जय जयकार। सुने मेरी दिल की पुकार, जय जयकार जय जयकार। सुने मेरी दिल की पुकार, जय जयकार जय जयकार। जय जयकार मैया तेरी 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 जय जयकार। सुने मेरी दिल की पुकार, जय जयकार जय जयकार। सुने मेरी दिल की पुकार, जय जयकार जय जयकार। जय जयकार मैया तेरी 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 जय जयकार। सुने मेरी दिल की पुकार, जय जयकार जय जयकार। सुने मेरी दिल की पुकार, जय जयकार जय जयकार। जय जयकार मैया तेरी 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 जय जयकार। तेरी कृपा से बेड़ा पार हो, मेरी माँ तेरी जय जयकार हो।
लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om. Thank you everyone for this wonderful opportunity. Really enjoyed to be with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Swamiji, for the amazing session. Yeah, we'll end the session, and I'll just share this feedback form link if anyone wants to give us any feedback. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night or good start to your day, depending on where you are.